Hi, and welcome to your Webinar JEO dashboard. The first time you've logged in, you'll be able to go through this short tour, which will be available each and every time you log in to the dashboard. It talks through setting up a new webinar, simply showing you where to click to go, setting up a recorded webinar the same, explaining the users section on where to find your subscribers to your webinar, the media elements, being able to set up specific buy buttons and surveys within your Webinar JEO dashboard that can be then triggered for each event that you run, and finishing on settings, being able to set up your time zones and autoresponders. As soon as that tour is ended, you've found yourself here on the main dashboard page. And on this video, we're going to be talking through the fast start and some of the essentials to get yourself up and running quickly, as well as the very necessary steps you need to take to make sure Webinar JEO is set up and running for you in the best possible way. We're going to start these essential steps by going to the settings area up here in the right-hand corner. From here, there's only a few things that are a must to set up to get you started quickly. Things like the predefined replies, colored flags for chat, and the autoresponder links can be set up at another time, and we certainly have training videos to cover those. However, for your first practice webinar, they're not needed. What is needed, however, is your time zone and making sure that the default sending settings are chosen. So let's choose our time zone. Simply broken into the locations around the world. So if you're in the United States, you can choose somewhere in America, or if you're in Asia, etc., you can see the different cities there, European cities, etc. Choose the city that is your local time zone. So for me, I'm going to choose Australia, and the time zone that's closest to me, which is that one there. That will set the time zone for your server, so you'll be able to create events in your specific time zone, making sure that the default setting is chosen on the SMTP configuration. And again, that can be set up later in another training video to personalize your emails. However, for the testing and getting your first test events set up, just choose default, and we'll show you why in just a second. So we've chosen our time zone. I've made sure that that's set to default, and then I can simply click on save. Once that's saved, going back to our dashboard, I now need you to take the second most important step, and that is to create a test webinar. Simply click on Set Up New Webinar, give it a name, so let's call this one Test First. We're not going to change any other settings here. We're going to literally make this available right now. So I'm going to scroll through all of the other settings, everything else, nothing needed to change, and just click on Save Webinar. From here, what we'll find is that that webinar now is available. I'm going to copy that link and open it in a new tab. This will open a test event with obviously no attendees. And from here, I want you to simply click on Start. It will load the camera, which you can see there, and start to get the necessary extensions loaded onto your browser. From there, please trigger the screen share. At this point, you may be asked to install a browser extension, and that's necessary for you to be able to show your screens on the webinar. And once you've installed the browser extensions, you'll be now ready to go to run your first event. So it's called Skylink Web RTC Browser Extension, and make sure you've installed that. And then once you've installed the extension, you'll be able to share your screen by simply selecting the window. Now, we do go through screen sharing and the different modes within the webinar on another training video. However, this is just to make sure that your system is set up correctly. So if you've installed the browser extension, you should now be able to choose a specific window and click on Share. And that window is then what will be displayed on the webinar to your attendees. Once we've completed these steps, you can simply click on End Webinar down here, and that will end that first event. Now we move on to the final test step that you'll need to do to get set up and running quickly. We're going to go back to our dashboard, and I'm going to create another new webinar. Let's call this Test Second. And this time we're going to share it with someone. It might even be yourself in an incognito window so that we can check that everything is getting done and signed up correctly. So again, I'm not going to change any other settings. I'm not going to add any other details. I'm simply going to scroll down and click on Save Webinar. Now I have the test second webinar. Again, I'm going to copy the link and I am going to open it myself for the administrator, just like that. And now I would invite you to open it either on another computer or in an incognito window. So I'm going to open an incognito window and show you. If you go to the link while you're still logged in, it will give you the admin screen. If you go to the link while you're not logged in or on an incognito window, you'll get the login screen. So this time I want you to log in as if you were a guest attending the webinar. The guest attending the webinar will see the thank you screen and will be able to simply close and will be on the webinar event screen ready to go. Send yourself a test message as a guest would do. And you'll see that pop up in your administration screen. So there's my attendees screen and there's my administration screen. So I can reply. And that shows up on my attendees screen. There are a few things to check, and one of them is that the registration email came through. So make sure that you've registered using a real email address. Go to your email inbox and make sure that the registration email has come through. If it hasn't, please go back to our steps and make sure that you've ticked to use default for your SMTP. So now we have a test attendee and our test webinar. Again, I'm going to click on Start. The camera will load, and we'll see that camera. Once our loading screen's gone, we'll see that camera showing up on our test event screen. And now you're ready to go for your first webinar. You've installed the browser extensions so you can trigger a screen share, and you've got a guest attendee, a test guest attendee, on your webinar on the incognito screen or on the other computer. Now, there is another essential test to do if you're inviting someone else to be the presenter, and that's run a test with them. Get them to come on as an attendee, make them the presenter by simply going to participants and choosing to make that person a presenter so that they can also install the browser extensions. That's a bit of an advanced step. If it's just you and you're just running webinars for now, those steps will get you set up and running quickly. So you'll be able to simply go to settings and choose your time zone and make sure the default sending is set up and saved. Then run a test webinar and open screen share so that you can install the browser extensions. And finally, run a test webinar with a guest attendee, making sure that the registration email comes through correctly and that your guest attendee can see both the camera and the screen share, and you'll be great, ready to go and set up for your first real webinar. From there, you'll need to then set up the real webinar, share the link, and good luck on your events. If there's any troubles, please give me a shout. Let me know via our support desk system, and we'll be there to look after you every step of the way.